How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Mupa.
Nice to see you.
Same here.
On YouTube, a lot of my subscribers been asking about what is cryptocurrency. So I just felt like it's a necessity and it's necessary to kind of give a broader idea for someone who doesn't know about cryptocurrency, or they know a lot but they still want to keep up with what's going on in the news, what's going on with the crypto world, where it's going, how we started, if we can get into that, or just get a general idea so that they can get a better understanding of which cryptocurrency to invest in and which one to stay away, and things of that nature.
I think you're exactly right, Mupa. It's like cryptocurrencies in recent years, the last 2 years especially, we have seen a lot of adoption in general from, teenagers, younger generations, to the late adopters, which includes even people from traditional finance. So I think going in blindly without a basic knowledge of cryptocurrencies is a bit risky. So I entirely agree with your view, of having this, episode to really give the educating element, to the general public about cryptocurrencies.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, the teenagers and versus adults and the people in the financial world are becoming more involved. And I always wonder, is it okay for teenagers to be in it? Because to me, it seems like it started with teenagers or anyone, but it's going more towards corporate companies,
Yep.
suits and tie, people with suits and tie, getting involved with it to the point where the teenagers, they're feeling like, oh no, this is not something for teenagers, it's something for adults. But originally, I believe that a lot of teenagers were involved, or young adults were involved with this whole cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. Or do I get that wrong?
I guess if you take a step back to the origins of cryptocurrencies, which is all belief, which is the father of all cryptocurrencies, which is Bitcoin, apparently been discovered and written by Satoshi.
Right.
I think what we have to understand was his mindset, of the whole financial industry when he wrote Bitcoin. It was all about financial decentralization, empowerment to the people. Cryptocurrency starts with the retail masses. The power, the consensus should be with the retail. That's what we have always seen in the last, say, maybe 8 to 10 years. Has always been the retail adoption, early believers going into the stable coins such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then the later stages like Cardano, Neo, just to list a few. And what happens, I think, lately is that there is a really legitimate fact that institutions, governments cannot deny that cryptocurrencies are the new form, to be staying. So that is why you have seen institutions such as MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, getting his foot in. You have the likes of Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley partaking in it. So I think right now we are in a situation where there's going to be a struggle, a balance of power between the institution and the retail. Yeah.
And when you mention decentralization, and this is a word that I wanted for us to try to clarify how to understand this word when we say the blockchain, Bitcoin is decentralized, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of times we may think decentralized mean going on the criminal side, going on to the dark market side, going into rebellion, or coming to disrupt. These are the words that we hear a lot: decentralized, disruption, right? And from my understanding of the word decentralized, it actually means just allocating or delegating different tasks to the people, as opposed to it being controlled or centralized within one institution. Or
Yep.
am I wrong in thinking?
I think you are almost.
I'm saying that in relation where people would think decentralized is coming, like Bitcoin is coming to mess things up, as opposed to coming to bringing a system that makes more sense.
Yep.
But allocating tasks to different
I guess where this decentralization comes in the world of cryptocurrency and financial world really relies on what we term as the third party intermediary. So in traditional finance, you have the banks, you have financial intermediaries that facilitate, traditional transactions, just a simple transactions, a buy and a sell of goods and services using fiat money.
Right.
And in the traditional world, it's been via an intermediary, which is a bank.
Yes.
In the world of crypto, the whole, notion lies on taking away these intermediaries, essentially the financial institutions, to create a trustless transactions between two parties. And that's where the building of cryptocurrency comes in. And exactly where you were spot on is that there are trusts to be delegated in order to facilitate this new world notion. And when we mean by trust, this can roll back to when Bitcoin first started. It works on what we call the proof of work notion of a consensus arrangement. And I think from there we have seen how it progresses, where some blockchain starts to move towards proof of stake, for I think reasons of energy consumption, So I think to your point, decentralization in my view means removal of third-party financial institutions to create a trustless transactions.
Okay, perfect. I wanted to continue on the same vein when it comes to proof of work and then versus proof of stake. But before I get to that, I wanted us to start making our viewers or whoever is listening to us, the audience, understanding maybe the very beginnings when it comes to Bitcoin, but more specifically to mining. I don't know if you can speak on that. So now, how can one acquire Bitcoin, right, or get involved with the blockchain by mining? Is mining versus just storing or buying a cryptocurrency? As far as cryptocurrency?
Personally, at this point in time, I think buying and selling, purchasing and selling in the current environment is more practical. There's a couple of reasons to it. There's a totally fixed total supply of 21 million Bitcoin in the whole world. And as of 2021, there's already 18.7 million that is circulating. So that just meant there's only a 2-point-odd-ish million that is remain to be mined. And not to forget, mining is a very energy intensive work. You need really supercomputers to solve complex algorithmic equations, problems, before you could even have the block rewards in Bitcoin. So unless you're willing to have a high cost of outlay, then you would actually consider mining. Having said that, the recent incidents where China has been banning mining, does that naturally means that there's suddenly a vacuum that is being created for new miners to come in to fill that space? I think it remains to be seen, because there are alternatives to China. We've seen miners moving to Kazakhstan. We've seen miners exploring certain states in the US, where mining facilities have started moving there. So to your question, if it's a retail investor who has expressed his interest in Bitcoin, I would say going the way of an investment platform, whether it's via a crypto exchange, or a peer-to-peer kind of exposure to Bitcoin would be the way to go, or the practical way to go.
You spoke about how miners are moving away and trying to find an alternative to China. Do you think a continent such as Africa is perhaps a place where miners would think of going, or they rather go to places like North America?
I guess I don't discount which continent is conducive to mining, Bitcoin mining. I think all depends on the infrastructure that is in place that is conducive to it. Just for instance, if mining were to be relocated to Africa itself, I do not want to see a situation that it brings in more negatives rather than positive.
Okay.
What would be the negatives? Would it be creating an upward pressure on consumption of electricity? And would that translate to higher cost that has been burdened to the general public. So I think these are factors that people got to think and factor in. Efficiency, cost of burden, before we decide which area, is it's conducive for mining. I mean, there's even a joke that goes around that, the Antarctica, for goodness sake, might be a good,
Place to start mining,
yeah,
yeah.
a good place to start mining. Exactly.
A solar panel could be used, as an alternative to a normal way we mine Bitcoin. And you were mentioning that it could be possible in places like Africa, all depending on the structure. Can we speak more on that?
Yep. So, like I've mentioned, technology works in a marvelous way that it's basically unanticipated, put it that way. What we strongly believe is that whenever there's a core development in a core technology, say in this case Bitcoin, you will realize there's peripheral technology that booms and support the core. And that includes finding efficient way for energy, to support the mining of Bitcoin, for instance. So solar panel energy in Africa, wind energy, in certain parts of Europe, water energy, all this comes in. So I believe it's really
I
about
heard
this
of
sustain.
volcano energy.
Absolutely. So sustainability, I think it's key. There's no point if you have peaks and droughts in energy, in sustaining mining. What we want is really a slow, progressive, upward curve in supporting that. So I think the next development would be really solar panel energy in Bitcoin mining. Solar technology has been researched for decades. So I think we to be honest, anytime we are actually ready for it. It's just about the infrastructure that needs to be deployed, that's all.
Yeah, moving along, how secure do you think the blockchain is, given that miners, you do have the 51% attack that can happen. Maybe you
Yeah.
can speak on the 51% attack and what it is, and then just kind of give an idea of how secure
Yep.
blockchain is as opposed to any other technologies that's doing the same thing. Is it really secure, blockchain, as of now?
I guess blockchain in general, my confidence in it is that it's very secure. The 51% attack, which we always term it as the tragedy of the commons, actually arises from the fact that the tradition, the origins of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, comes from the fact that the consensus is used as a proof of work. In proof of work, you need to actually mine to validate a block before you could actually post that block of transaction into the blockchain, right? And the fear back then was that if any miners or group of miners holds more than 51% of the network, they could actually hold it hostage. They could actually harm the network. But if you really look into it, the main issue isn't about the 51%. There are many diverse mining pools that exist that is difficult to rig them together to have a single big group that owns more than 51%. The main issue is energy consumption. And that's the reason why you realize that the technology starts to move towards proof of stake rather than proof of work. So in proof of stake, you naturally eradicate the issue of the 51% attack.
Sorry, I
Yep.
don't mean to cut you off.
Yep.
Yeah, we're definitely going to speak about the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to give, again, a very understandable idea of what blockchain is to the viewers, or maybe people that just starting out trying to understand the cryptocurrency. And one of the, I guess, comparison that I've always come across or utilize, it's how internet started, right? Like the internet at first, there's not much you could have done on there, right? Like, it was there, but you couldn't watch videos or you couldn't listen to music really, right? And at one point we had the email. Now we can send messages to each other. and then later on another company will come and say, well, now we can add emojis onto the letters, or we can add graphic onto this, and another company can come and say, well, now you can talk live with the people, right? And for some reason, all these other companies that came once the internet was existent, they came to fortify or to solidify this technology, and being able to communicate and things of that nature. But before being able to do these things, other languages were created. Like you couldn't just build a website. A language had to be created, and then once the language was created, so it was possible to do certain things. So I wanted to kind of understand, where are we now with this blockchain technology, knowing that, okay, the first currency that came out of it was Bitcoin. But where are we now in terms of, if we were to compare it with how the internet started and other apps and other solutions and other languages and came to fortify that and to solidify these technologies?
I think in terms of the process of fortification and the solidification of the whole technology has taken at a rate that is much faster than back in the internet world. It's moving in leaps and bounds. It's moving in a rate that is unseen in any traditional financial asset classes, for instance. You have what you exactly mentioned, the native currencies like the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and then you have smart contracts that builds on it that are derivatives, of all these instruments. And then, after 1 year, after a couple of months, you start to see futures, options riding on this technology. So it has, what I would say, the rate that it has grown and improved and been utilized is growing at a faster rate than we've ever seen. Yep.
And to go in that same vein, now to get back to what you were saying concerning the proof of stake. These days you see like a real resurgence of coins that are not using the same method or system, the proof of work, but rather they're using proof of stake. Can you speak on that difference now? Like you have coins like Tron, and even I think Ethereum is using the proof of stake as opposed to proof of work.
Ethereum would be moving to proof of stake in the 2.0 version. It has not happened yet, so it's still proof of work at this moment. You raise a very good important point. Tron is entirely on proof of stake consensus. And that explains why when you move USDT, for example, from wallet to wallet, it costs technically zero gas fees, right? So I think these are the essential differences that we got to look at it. But one important, I think, aspect to your subscribers, the listeners out there, is that proof of work and proof of stake is very intimately linked to whether the token is mineable or non-mineable. Tokens which are mineable are proof of work. Tokens that are unmineable are proof of stake.
Given that some coins they can't be mined and some could be mined, and that's the main difference between the proof of work and proof of stake.
Correct.
So should we then focus more on coins that are using the proof of stake as opposed to those that are using the proof of work, if we're going towards proof of stake anyway?
Very good question. I would say that I would consider a basket or portfolio. If you really look into the mechanics and the factors around tokens, right? They are either proof of work or proof of stake. In relation to its price stability, there's a huge difference. Bitcoin, for example, just to give you an example, in proof of work like Bitcoin, the supply has to be mined, right? It's not something that is being thrown out in the market in one shot. In proof of stake, the supply, it's already out there in the market because it's not mineable. And if you realize, a lot of volatility affects the proof of stake tokens much more than the proof of work.
And why is that?
That's because the supply is already out there. It's not controlled manner. Whereas for proof of work, you have a restriction in terms of controlled supply.
Right.
You need effort, you need time
Right.
to mine
Right.
to increase that supply.
Right.
Whereas for proof of stake,
Yeah.
it's easily available over decentralized exchange,
Right.
over centralized exchange, through what we call the pump and dump groups, which I personally hate, which resulted in huge volatility.
Yeah. Speaking of
Yeah,
pumping and dumping,
yeah,
we were speaking on the difference between proof of work, proof of stake, and why certain coins seems to be more volatile than others. And also, not only that, but it seems like in the market, the exchange market, any coin using the proof of stake seem to cost less, or to be worth less than a coin that's using the proof of work. And then you were explaining clearly that it depends on the supply that's out there.
yep,
The proof of work, being limited, and we know exactly how much that can be mined. It's not mined yet, as opposed to the proof of stake where the supply it's already out there,
yep.
and there's so much of it. Could that be the main reason why it seems to be not going up in value in the market?
Yeah, I think in pure economic sense, yeah, demand and supply, put it that way. So in tokens that rely on proof of stake, that's where you see the price fluctuations are basically driven
Yes.
by hype
Right.
rather than it's actual tokenomics that they kind of
The value that it
yeah,
has.
correct, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess concerning the blockchain and the mining, I always wondered, once all the blocks are mined,
Yep.
let's say the Bitcoin, the blockchain, once it's all mined, what's next for Bitcoin?
If you look at in that way, once it's all fully mined, there's undeniable that it has to move to proof of stake, and that's going to be in the natural demand and supply, the hype, going to get involved. You see, so I think that's a natural progression. Mining can only end at a certain time. So to your question, it will definitely move to proof of stake.
That's
Yeah.
interesting because that's how I had it in my mind as
Yep.
well. Like comparing to how the internet started, where you didn't have much to do on it. You can go on I guess, the dust mode and just type in and program it like that, right? You can program, but you're not actually seeing any graphic until somebody came and programmed a way to graphically see things and moving towards that. And now, whenever you use a computer, rarely do you just use the back end of the computer and program, and you can actually use a mouse now and play music, watch video.
Yep.
Everything seems to be more visual, and to the point where we actually forgetting that there's actually coding in the back end of this. So my question that I didn't make you aware, but I wanted to ask, how important is coding on the blockchain or programming on the blockchain for the future? For teenagers who they like programming, right? They program it on HTML, JavaScript, and
Yep.
C++, and all these other languages that's existing. But now that the technology blockchain is actually, the internet of money, how important then it becomes for someone who's enthused with coding or programming to start learning how to program on the blockchain, because that's where everything is going towards.
I guess it depends on how serious one is in terms of in the blockchain itself. If you're just for the fun of like creating your own token, say a MUPA token,
Yes.
you don't need programming language or any sophistication to do that. It's easily forkable on any smart contract. There are Remix Ethereum, which is easy to use. You don't really need programming language for that. But having said that, if you intend to bring this project or this token to a different height by adding on use cases, adding on utilities, that's where a knowledge of programming comes in. So I think there's a different, depending on what you want in terms. So to your question, you don't need to be,
savvy into
correct.
coding in order to get involved with
Yeah.
cryptocurrency. I guess where I was trying to go with this here is because I'm actually encouraging teenagers, young adults, people to get involved with coding itself, because I see the importance of, you know, learning how to program things, right?
Yep.
But then again, programming is not for everybody. A lot of people who like art. Some people like art. Some people like, you know, to be with computers. Some people like sports. Some people like, you know, there's a lot of things that people are interested in. But if you came to, let's say, computer science in itself, and someone who's maybe a computer networker, and they are interested into coding, right? Because the interest has to be there first, right?
Yep.
So once you get someone to be interested in coding, right, and they enjoy it, right, of course they're going to learn the basic language such as C++, which is very basic, just to know how to build an algorithm,
Yep.
right, to solve, you know, simple equation like 1 + 1, and things of that nature. Now, and in agreement with what you're saying, you know, once you master the basic knowledge of coding, I want to sway people to not look into just coding on, you know, for Windows or Linux or,
Yep.
you know, those type of platform, and Apple talking and those type of platform. But if you're interested, once you're interested in coding, to sway, I guess, your vision towards the blockchain, and do the things that you said, such as if you wanted to come and alter what Ethereum is doing, of course, then you have to have the knowledge of programming. But if you just, like you said, if you just want to create a token, then there's already codes or resources in place that you can kind of just piece together,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
But someone coded that already for you, right?
Yep.
Is that what you're saying? It's already been put in place. Someone already programmed that for you in order for you to just put them together. Like you have a few platforms out there where if you want to build a website, you don't have to learn how to code a website.
You can use Wix.
You can, exactly, you can go to Wix, where you just put things together, and there you go, you have a website. But someone coded that to make it easier for you.
Correct. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So yes, my idea was how important is coding for the next generation, and especially on the blockchain.
I think once you get more engaged into it, there'll be questions that you will ask yourself. How would you want to contribute to make it more efficient?
Yes.
And that's where I think the coding, it matters. You know. Yeah.
Before I get to asking you how you got involved with
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, and then you know, you woke up one day, you drank tea or coffee, and all of a sudden you wanted to get involved with cryptocurrency. I wanted to know, how many people do you think, like the percentage wise, in Hong Kong who are involved in the cryptocurrency? It seems like everywhere I go, even the bus, you see big signs like, "Oh, get involved in crypto,
Yeah.
get involved," as if it's a common thing. But I'm wondering how many people really get involved with cryptocurrency here in Hong Kong?
If you talk about getting involved with knowledge and an understanding of it, I would say less than 30%.
Less than 30.
Yeah.
Wow. I
If
would think that everybody knew about it. When like the way I see signs everywhere,
Yeah.
crypto this, crypto that, this exchange market, crypto.
with knowledge, 30%.
Okay.
If it's just blindly knowing cryptocurrencies, yeah, you're right. Probably everyone in the streets, or probably the fishmonger near my market will probably know what's a cryptocurrency.
Okay.
You know, it's as good as in Hong Kong has always been an amazing city where people embrace financial instruments quickly. Remember the good old days, decades back, where every grandma buys stocks.
Yes.
But do they understand the value behind a stock? I think that's the main difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand, right? So here we have the blockchain technology.
Yep.
Satoshi created it. Who we don't know who he is, and I'm not gonna waste your time or my time to try to figure out who he is. But I have my ideas. You probably have yours. But I wanted to understand, why is it that you have other entities as if they're playing the role of being the perimeters, deciding the perimeters within which you can play with this technology.
Yep.
Right? It's as if, okay, here we are, let's say we find electricity. Now, there's many things that we can do with electricity, right? All depending on how much of it you want to use, how you can use. But then, of course, you have companies in place, whether it be governmental or commercial, who would decide how much energy you should use and things of that nature. And I started noticing the same thing with the cryptocurrency, especially the blockchain, how you have different entities as if they're there as the founding fathers and deciding, how much of this technology you can use and what you can use it for. And I'm saying that because I did watch an episode where Idris Sandu, he's one of the a genius in the, I guess in technology as well, right? Like he worked for Google when he was 13 and things of that nature. And then he always mentioned how it seems like there's people put in place in order to decide how much of the technology, how much programming you can do. Even though, without even the education, because there's people that they're just genius, right? They could just pick up things on their own. But it seems like, okay, you have Google there, you have Apple there, you have Elon Musk there, you have all these other people as if they become the face of this technology. But why is that if this thing really took off in the dark web where anybody could get involved with it? What's your take on that? I feel like this technology, blockchain, is free.
It's open source.
It's open source. But I feel like it seems like these people that, nobody put them there in order to decide what you can do, but they want to be the face of this technology. Or maybe I'm wrong on that.
I guess the fact that it's been open source and there's always a group or I would say individuals or group of people that have different mindset when they leverage off such technology. Some are really for the good of improving and efficientizing blockchain. Some, pardon my language, some, for example Elon Musk, I'm not really seeing eye to eye the way that he tweets about stuff, and people just go crazy over it, right? Does that make him the face of cryptocurrencies? No, exactly not. To drive your business model in one direction if the other direction fails. Let's look at Amazon. Do they sell books that makes them actually a successful corporation? No, it's cloud space that they are selling. So that's how technology has been able to change corporations around. So this is how exactly I see it in a blockchain, just that the rate, the speed of how things would change would be much faster than the past,
I know you're very learned when it comes to NFT, and then I didn't mean to ask anything about NFT, but just as you mentioned Amazon and books, and so my question was, how easy is it to transform an ebook into an NFT?
Easy, with a click of a finger.
Yeah. So, but we'll get into the conversation of NFT perhaps another episode, or if we have time. But my main question was basically trying to understand how you got involved with cryptocurrency. Well, let's talk about that. How did you get involved with cryptocurrency?
So I've always been a traditional finance person, in the traditional financial asset classes world and all that. So I came in touch with Bitcoin, Ethereum, probably about 7 or 8 years back, to be honest. But back then,
7 or 8 years. So
it was
2014.
Yeah, and during that period, it was really over beers with friends who are actually early adopters. I'm actually a late adopter, to be honest.
2014 is late.
I think I'm late. Yeah, I think I'm late. My friend actually sent me back then like a 0.0, can't remember, Ether in my wallet, which it backed me to download back then.
Right.
So back then I was very skeptical because I was fully engaged in a daytime traditional finance job.
Right.
So it hasn't really been in my mind. It's only after a couple of years, maybe about 3 years back or so, I start to seriously look into this space, cryptocurrency space, start to read up on it, learn programming that is related to the blockchain.
So you did learn programming.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I appreciate that. And my whole thing is really stressing on the fact that how coding is important.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand you don't need coding in order to get involved with Bitcoin, whether invest or just to find out what it is.
Exactly.
But definitely coding plays a great role
Yep.
into really mastering this thing that we call the blockchain.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to
That's
go with.
that's when you actually want to contribute and add value to it, and that's why me and my partner, which is my co-developer, we kind of started the SKIDDO, which is our governance token. You see, so that's how all it comes about. The coding, the programming.
How long ago did you start it? Did you start Sceeto?
It's just this year in March. Yeah, there was a lot of work and effort put onto the whiteboard before we actually launched it. Yeah.
So you really got in touch with being interested in cryptocurrency in 2014.
Yep.
And it's so funny how certain people now, whenever they want to get involved with crypto, they're chasing something that has value already, like it's expensive on the market, without understanding that in 2009 Bitcoin was at zero.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's only, and the people that were involved, they didn't foresee that. Like, yeah, they had a belief that eventually it's gonna go up, but they didn't foresee that all of a sudden it's gonna make billionaires and millionaires. Now in 2017, around that time, and the similar thing happened with Ethereum, where in 2015 he was at $1.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years later, people saw the money. So now when people want to get involved with cryptocurrency now, they're not looking at, okay, what is this coin that I'm trying to invest in? What is it doing? Is it coming to help the network that's already there? Or is it just like you mentioned earlier, is it just a fad? Is it just the wave because Elon Musk mentioned the name, now I'm going to buy it, and tomorrow I'm going to cry because it didn't live up
Exactly.
to what I was expecting, as opposed to actually reading up on this cryptocurrency that you're trying to invest in, even if it's at zero, even if it's at a fraction of a zero. You know what I mean? I don't
Exactly.
know if you can break down a zero, but less than a penny. But as long as you understand what the currency is coming to contribute onto the network, then that will be the cryptocurrency to invest in.
That is where I think to the general public, especially investors who are beginning to go into crypto, understanding the project fully without the hype is number one priority. You got to understand that a token is only a token on its own that is driven by hype without any fundamentals. So you got to, as developers, as a team, like me and my co-developer, we are responsible to build use cases, utilities, so that it legitimizes the token as a governance token. And it can take many different routes. Coming from a traditional finance world, what I felt that is missing right now in the decentralized exchange, in crypto for example, is an educational element to teach investors on how to execute in an efficient manner. So for instance, in PancakeSwap, all it tells you is that if you transact a certain amount, it's going to create a certain percentage of price impact. That's all.
Right.
That's all it goes. But for us, we think one step further. We want to create a DEX that allows a pop-up telling the investor, although it's a 16% impact, but hey, guess what? There's a feature you could use as a time slice where you can execute a large order so that you minimize market impact. So it's another step ahead of that. So simple, I wouldn't say simple, but slightly more useful features are still lacking in the current DEX world, such
In
as
the financial world?
in the crypto decentralized exchange. Yeah. So I think people should be educated. If I'm holding, for instance, say a million Ethereum in tokens, would I want to sell a million? I know it's going to create a huge market impact, but it could be done if you have execution tools that help you to massage the orders into the market. You see, so it can be automated time slice. That's what MicroStrategy did, right? When they bought into Bitcoin.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cut you off. You can
Yep.
continue if you want to continue.
Yep.
But I had a question concerning. You mentioned that you do have your own token.
Yep.
You do have a company that's that has created a token. I guess the first question is that token that we were talking about, SKIDDO. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's SKIDDO.
Yep.
Okay. And people can have access to it if they go to successkid.org.
Yep. Yep.
So what's the relation there? Because I've noticed that even the logo, the picture itself.
Yep.
What's the relation with that logo and the story about the kid with the fist grabbing his hand?
I guess it's the whole notion of empowering the younger generation to understand more about blockchain and cryptocurrency, and the reason of the name Success Kit,
Yes.
right? What we intend to build that we want to roll out next year in Q1, for instance, is a SKIDDO wallet
Right.
where it's going to hold tokens that has a time lock to it. And in order for them to unlock a certain percentage of the tokens, they have to pass a certain level of proficiency in terms of crypto knowledge or blockchain knowledge.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I want to continue in that same vein.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so interested in your token, because it has so much to do with the future generation, with the kids, and just like how you mentioned, how important to be cryptocurrency literate, right? For the next generation. Now, this token that we're talking about, SKIDDO, is it on POS? Proof of stake, or the proof of work?
It's proof of stake, and it's on the Binance Smart Chain network. Yep.
The Binance Smart Chain.
Yes, correct.
So that's its blockchain. It doesn't have its own blockchain.
It's block. It doesn't have its own blockchain, so it's on the Binance blockchain.
Okay,
Yep.
that's interesting.
Yep.
Can you elaborate on what this token can actually do?
First of all, I think it relies on the fact that it solves a couple of issues, which is what we call the deflationary aspect of the token. So our token works on a static reward system. So it kinds of reward holders for holding the tokens.
Okay.
And that's very important when it translates to a kid's wallet. They need to hold it, they need to unlock it, then they can access it.
Unlocking it how? By knowing more about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, that would be if you have look at Robinhood app, for example,
Yes.
it's amazing where you first sign up Robinhood, you are only accessing basic functions.
Yes.
But as you trade more, you become more proficient, you unlock certain features.
Okay.
So on our SKIDDO wallet, it's more educational element. So you pass certain tests, for instance, online,
Right.
and then a certain percentage gets unlocked.
Right.
And then it pushes you to go up to from the beginning level, intermediate, advanced, right? So this is the SKIDDO wallet that is a utility
Right.
that we're going to build in Q1.
Right.
Right now, how SKIDDO works is that me and you are holders.
Right.
A third party, for instance, he sells his SKIDDO.
Yes.
There's always a 10% transaction fee.
Okay.
5% of it gets distributed to me and you, who's holding it,
Right.
and everyone else who's holding it.
Right.
And the other 5% gets auto added back into the liquidity pool.
Okay.
So that's where you see the static rewards comes in. So your physical
So it's
holding,
more beneficial to hold on to it?
exactly, and that creates a stable, progressive price floor vis-a-vis the high volatility, of prices. So I think it's an amazing feature that, like you mentioned, it wouldn't have existed if basic blockchain has not existed or other tokens. So the features just gets improved. And once it gets improved, we start to think, do we only want to just stop there and have a X percentage be donated to child charity? No, I think we want to go further. empowering the younger generation. Yep. Yep.
Okay, to have access to this token, what kind of wallet do you need in order to receive this token? Any crypto wallet will do, or
Yeah.
is
In fact,
like
any
the
crypto
blockchain,
wallet.
the blockchain.info,
Uh,
the Bitcoin wallet,
yeah.
you will have it?
Yeah. Any crypto wallet that can access the Binance blockchain.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is quite a commonality nowadays. Yeah.
So can someone who has maybe a wallet onto the market, exchange market, receive this token or not?
Say for instance, if I have a wallet in an exchange such
Right.
as Binance, for instance,
Right.
right?
Or 4B? Or 4B?
Yep. Those are not yet because these are centralized exchange.
Right.
So we are really talking about wallet that is off the centralized exchange.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I get that. This token, it's made, to educate the kid, right? The kids, the children, and how to be more not financially literate, but cryptocurrency
Yep.
literate. Where do we find these kids? How do they have access to it, and how do they pass those tests that we were talking about in order to?
That's a very interesting question. In fact, up till last night, I was still engaged in a call with a couple of my team members and some of the guys that I host weekly on Twitter Space. So very good question. We have this vision, this idea, where a pregnant mother, for instance,
Yes.
walking to a gynecologist clinic,
Yes.
scan a QR code, she gets the SKIDDO wallet. To activate the wallet, she has to key in with evidence of a clinical report, how many months pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And from then on, it gets activated. And it would have a time factor in it where it could track, when a kid is given birth, etc. And the online test, for instance, is simple, right? Say, for instance, I open my app. I have educational materials that can link me to read up on crypto.
Right.
And I have a set of 50 random questions for
Yes.
beginner level.
Right.
They passed it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that it gets unlocked. I unlock 5%, fine. But education has to be impromptu to get into the head.
Yes.
So anytime after you pass that beginner level, for a period of 1 month to 2 months, there'll be impromptu quizzes that pops up.
And those quizzes are only for those that hold the tokens?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
And it's only for kids. So if an adult has this token,
Yep.
but those tests are for the children.
Yep.
So the parent will put the kid in front of the computer
Yes,
to answer
correct.
these questions in order to unlock.
Unlock the wallet.
Man, very interesting.
Yep.
Very, very, very interesting.
And it's such innovation that got us, kids education is one thing. We're also working with another Hong Kong established crypto project, which is called Gaming Go. So it's an online game, that people buy into GMC tokens and they get to play a game in tokens, And we have also formed up a VC, a venture capitalist, where we want to work with promising projects, where at least the minimum funding that we're willing to explore is around the region of like $200,000 and above.
Okay.
So that's something that we want to contribute to the crypto and the blockchain world.
I understand. Right now, as we speak, I wanted to know this token that we're talking about has been, I guess, created a year ago.
Oh no, 4 months.
4 months
March this year.
How easy
Yeah.
is it for someone to create? I think I did ask this
Yeah.
question, but I'm not sure if I understood the answer. How easy is it for someone to create their own token? Because the reason why I'm asking is that you do have a lot of geniuses kids, right?
Yep.
They tend to to display some type of genius ability sometimes, but I'm wondering how easy it would be for a child, a teenager, to get involved into creating their own cryptocurrency. Is it through your token that they can learn how to create their own, or they can just learn it on their own as well?
The educational aspect of it in our whole idea, right, doesn't just involves about understanding cryptocurrency as an investment vehicle. It includes basic programming, coding, just like how kids nowadays learn about Hello World
Yes.
around that region. But it's going to be basic
Yes.
for this
I
stuff.
love that.
Yes.
I love that idea.
Correct.
That it's around coding.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we should turn to our live chat and
Yep.
see if we have any questions. Do we have any questions there? There's nothing there. Absolutely nothing. Okay, that's fair enough. Because of the time differences. On the browser, like the URL there. On top of it, like another page. No, nothing like that. Another page. Yeah. Is there any question there from you?
Yep.
There's no questions there? They were just saying hello? Okay, fine.
Cool.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, you know, the world of cryptocurrency is like a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
you know,
it is. It's a
not-
Wild West.
Yeah, one conversation is not sufficient to,
Yep.
to really understand everything. But as long as we have the start, where we going with this knowledge,
Yep.
right? And the knowledge cannot just be a knowledge where you cannot apply, right? The fact that you have a token, and the token actually comes to not embellish but fortifies, the education of cryptocurrency itself. For those who for those who don't understand what cryptocurrency is, I think that in itself it's something that to be reckoned with. And I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to have this conversation with you. But this conversation cannot just be of one.
Yeah,
topic.
definitely.
Of course, we got to figure out a way where we keep educating people
Yep.
on this cryptocurrency, especially the SKIDDO token, and to try to see how it's beneficial for certain groups more than others. I know that in America, what we have right now is like a divide and competition within communities and things of that nature. But I think any technology really don't really favor one community or the other. Everybody can have access to it.
Yep.
And sometimes we scorn upon the fact that this information is coming from someone that don't look like us, right? But once we pass that stage, the information is information. Now, if I can utilize that and benefit me and my community, then so be it. And I think the blockchain technology is one of those technology where it doesn't belong to nobody per se.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, the founder that we claim, Satoshi, we don't even know who he is. And so once we don't know where that came from, it's pretty much just something up in the air for everybody to grab and master it without looking at whose face they put in front of us as a representative of this technology. We should be able to understand it on our own and be able to choose where we're going with it. Once again, I really appreciate the fact that you are here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, to bring more light, and then and hopefully we can continue on this information, and those 10 people that get a chance to own those tokens, they get to ask questions.
Sure.
Permanently, and trying to understand more.
And follow the development and the growth of our project. Agreed. Yep.
Oh man, it's my pleasure.
Pleasure. Yep.
Yo, word up. Sometimes we just zone, you know what I'm saying? Trying to escape all this stress, all the beats. Thugs, hustlers, pimps, hookers, you name it, you know what I'm saying?